Welcome to the New Look re-review. Hello everybody, welcome to the re-review, the series where I get to replay and reassess games from my favourite gaming era. I'm Brian, also known as UK Gen Zoidberg, and I hope you like the new studio setup. This should hopefully make producing episodes in this series a lot easier for me, and potentially that will allow me to make even more great Amiga content, and maybe even some live streams. I have a long list of games that I want to talk about on the re-review this year, including the last few titles that I reviewed for Games X and Amiga Action, so hopefully you will stick with me through all of it. In this latest episode, the game that I'm going to be delving back into and replaying is The Settlers, which was developed and published by Blue Byte in 1993. Hey, has anybody told you about the VIP memberships that we do right here on the channel? Not only will you get early access to most of the videos that we post, you'll also get exclusive access to full reruns of any live streams that we do, plus exclusive membership content. You'll even get one of these little badges that you can put on your name whenever you comment on anything, just to show people how long you've been a member for. If that sounds like something that might be of interest to you, it's only £1.99 a month, and you can find full details of how you can become a member in the video description, or just click the link on screen right now. You'll even get to help us choose what games we cover in future episodes of both the re-review and Retro Game Super Leagues, so why not check it out? For now though, let's get back to the video. Over the last 3 years, as I've worked on this video series, I'm still constantly surprised by how many development teams there are that are still working today. Blue Byte are another, although today they exist as part of Ubisoft Dusseldorf. Not bad for a company whose history can be traced all the way back to 1988. That's when founders Thomas Hertzler and Lothar Schmidt left Rainbow Arts to set up their own studio. In less than a year, they had produced their first game, the impressive tennis simulation Pro Tennis Tour, known as Great Courts across Europe, and later that same year they would also produce the platform adventure game Twin World. The manual for that game begins with the developer explaining their philosophy. The Twin World team was formed halfway through January 1989. Our goal was to create an extraordinary arcade game. That's why we didn't bother with childish technical showing off, preferring to maximise the game's playability. If that's not a not-so-subtle dig at how they felt about other developers in the games industry at the time, I don't know what is. This dedication to gameplay has led to Twin World being regarded as a bit of a cult classic in Amiga circles. They followed it up with the disappointing action-adventure game Tom and the Ghost, and followed that with the much-improved sequel Pro Tennis Tour 2. This was one of only 6 sports games to appear in my top 100 games that I published a couple of years ago. Whether or not it makes the updated list later this year, you'll have to tune in and find out when I get round to publishing it. For their next game, they would turn to the strategy genre, a genre that the company would end up becoming most well known for. 1991's Battle Isle was a futuristic turn-based strategy game for 1 or 2 players, and it was the studio's first big hit across Europe. It led to 2 quick-fire data discs and numerous sequels, although none of those sequels were released for the Amiga. What the Amiga did get though was the historical spin-off, Historyline 1914 to 1918, which came out in 1993. In 2013, the series' legacy continued with the spiritual spin-off, Battle Worlds Chronos, which was released by King Art Games for PC and consoles. Also releasing in 1993 was the first episode in the Settlers series, which put you in charge of constructing and maintaining a small village, whilst also fending off attack from nearby enemies. The game was initially inspired by Bullfrog's Populous, before the designers decided to go for a more grounded approach and focus on the game's economic system instead. It went on to sell over 400,000 copies worldwide, surprising even Blue Byte themselves. Again, only the first game released on the Amiga, but to date there have been 8 official sequels and numerous spin-offs. The most recent entry in the series, The Settlers' New Allies, actually released in 2023. Blue Byte's expertise in the genre made them the ideal choice to work alongside another team called Relative Designs. Together they took the reins of the Anno series, starting with 2009's Anno 1404, and the latest entry in that series is actually due later this year. Since becoming part of Ubisoft in 2001, Blue Byte has continued to work as one of the many support studios within the company, working on many of the biggest titles released by the publisher, including Rainbow Six Siege, Far Cry 6, For Honor and Avatar. They even contributed work to Beyond Good and Evil 2, but whether we'll ever see that materialise is anyone's guess. Now let's go back to 1993 and see what the critics had to say about the Settlers on first release. First reviews of the Settlers began to appear in UK Amiga magazines in their December 1993 issues. The first review appeared in Amiga Power, although everything else in that issue was kind of overshadowed by cannon fodder and the controversy surrounding the use of a poppy on the front cover. I'll talk about that in a future episode of this series next month. Their review praised how deep the game was, but also how easy it was to get into thanks to the cute presentation. Reviewer Cam Winstanley was very impressed with the game overall and awarded it 88%, or 2% higher if you were able to leverage the power of an A1200 for larger villages. The highest score came in the Christmas issue of Amiga Format, where it received 94%. The review stated that with the sheer number of levels and an excellent two-player mode, it would likely keep you busy until the following Christmas. They also said that it was a very easy contender for Game of the Year. This was a sentiment also offered by Amiga Computing in their February issue, where they awarded it 93%. Scores of 90% were given out by both CU Amiga and the One Amiga, with Amiga Action awarding it 89%. From the 6 reviews that appeared in the UK magazines, the average score was a hugely impressive 90.7%. Over on the Lemon Amiga website today, the user score is 8.87 out of 10 from 384 votes. Now let's see how the game plays today. It's time for the playtest.
I don't think I've mentioned anywhere else in this video what a great little introductory animation the game has. Doesn't tell an epic story or anything, it's literally just a guy riding into town on the back of a donkey. But the graphical style, the music, the animation, it all sets up the cozy aesthetic of the game really, really nicely, I find. Now obviously this was a game that you could install on a hard drive, so playing it from a hard drive, this intro sequence works quite nicely. But if I was playing this from the floppy disks, there would be a horrendously long loading pause every time the screen fades to black, which does kind of break up the flow. So if you have the ability to install it, then you really should do so. And okay, it's not a donkey, it is a horse. Okay, so there are many different ways that you can play the game. There are the mission levels. There is a tutorial game. You can just play as a straight skirmish for single player, or you can play 2-player. Now, I found the 2-player mode to be pretty disappointing, to be honest, because player 2 doesn't seem to be able to actually do anything. Player 1 does all the building and everything else. Player 2 literally can only scroll the map and see what's underground, so it wasn't great at all. And the tutorial mode is not the kind of tutorial mode that you would expect in a modern game where the game teaches you everything on screen. Literally, all of the tutorial missions that the game gives you are written down in the manual. So if you haven't got the manual, then it is literally just a sandbox mode. So instead, let's just go straight for mission 1. Now, first thing you have to do is find a good place for your castle. Now, what I find is that the best place is somewhere near water. Maybe over here. Yeah, there's plenty of trees there. There's some mountainous area for mining. Right, yeah, I think the castle will be good over here. Let me see if we can find somewhere for it. If you double click on the build tool, it actually shows you where you could possibly build. So I'm going to build the castle there. As you start to build everything in the town, your villagers will all come out of the castle and start to work and carry the equipment required automatically. You don't actually have to click on anything to get them to go. which is all part of the user friendliness that the game has, making it very accessible for people who don't normally play these kind of games like me. What I'll do is I will get a forester as well. That way it's somebody who's planting trees. That way we should have an infinite supply of trees to cut down. And there's my little fisherman. There he is, going about his daily business. And there's the woodcutter as well, actually. But what you get on this mission is there is one opponent off somewhere on the map. So if I look on here, these blue buildings are mine. The red buildings are my opponent. So let's have a look at their village, see what they're doing. What I think I could do with building is if I build a guard's hut over here, that's the side that my opponent's base is located. The guard hut is completed, and as you can see, there are some knights making their way to the building. I do love how the knights have beards. My mine is also complete, and my forester is going about planting some trees as well. What I am building here is a sawmill, but first this guy needs to come out and level the land for you to be able to build on it. Okay, so here we go. I've now built I've got a farm under construction here to provide food for the villagers. I have a working sawmill, and I think my guard tower is complete because there's a couple of knights working their way along the road. So, 3 of them in fact. Yes, the guard tower is complete. Okay, so when my knights reach this guard tower, I am going to take some land away from my opponent. So let's see how much this gives me. So I occupied that new building, and I have taken quite a lot of land off him. I really don't know what any of these screens actually mean. I mean, obviously that's the different types of people that I have in my village. I have 126 villages in total. Yes, the game does like to remind you if you haven't saved your game. So yeah, 30 minutes have passed since I last saved. So I can go to the menu here and save. I mean, there is a 115-page manual, I think it is, that comes with the game, which I have been able to download from the Hall of Light website. So everything that you could possibly need to know should surely be in that manual. So let's see what I can find out about attacking the enemy. Right, so I think I have to actually click on the enemy buildings themselves to attack them. So, in that case, can I attack this guard hut? Yeah, I've won. Well, beat one person anyway. Come on, keep going. Let's try again. Let's send 4 knights over this time. So I've expanded with another guard tower. 4 knights heading that way. I also now have a blacksmith and an extra storage area. I've killed 2 of them. Hey! Does that mean I gained a victory? Yes. So I've beaten their building. I got a little bit giddy, and I appear to have set fire to quite a lot of the enemy buildings there by attacking one of their guard huts in the middle. I mean, it's not exactly command and conquer, is it, when it comes to the battling? I think that's why if I wanted more instant action from a game like this, I probably would play Dune 2 rather than this. But Dune 2 is nowhere near as relaxing as this game is to play. So I think as I leave my troops battling away to get into the enemy castle, that's probably a good place to end this playtest. This is still a game that I really like, but let's summarise my feelings in the re-review.
The Settlers has always had a soothing zen-like feel to it. Watching the townsfolk go about their business is actually very reminiscent of Lemmings, in that it's a joy to just sit back and watch them go about living their lives. Ask anyone who knows me and they'll tell you that I generally don't have the patience for these types of games, and that I get bored if I play something like Populous or Utopia for too long. In the case of this game though, that simply doesn't happen. Getting started is brilliantly simple, and before you know it, hours of your day will have simply disappeared. Thankfully, the game does remind you to save your game every 30 minutes if you've forgotten. It's a little disappointing that the menus are made up purely of icons, as without the reference cards that come with the game, you would be pretty stuck. Not knowing what the buildings are is an admittedly small issue though, as I found it great fun to just build each one and see what they did. Whether you want a detailed and in-depth strategy game, or a cosy and casual one, this is a game that should appeal to you. Sure, modern games have got quality of life improvements such as quick saves and a much better tutorial, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't play this one. I certainly haven't played all of the city builders on the Amiga, but here's how I would rank the ones that I have. While other Super Leagues have been weighed down by the number of games at the bottom, this is one where all of the quality is at the top, with more games in the essential and recommended category than any other. I'd still rather play The Settlers though than almost any other game on this list, and if you haven't played it for yourself, then you need to rectify that as soon as possible. Definitely a 9 out of 10 from me. Thank you for watching this latest episode of the re-review. I really hope you enjoyed it. It's been great to go back and replay The Settlers again, even if it did soak up many hours to do so. If this was a game that you played back in the 90s, I'd love to hear your memories of it, and whether or not you'd rank it as highly as me against other Amiga strategy games. As always, the opinions in this video are mine and mine alone, and it's perfectly fine if you disagree with me. If there are any Amiga games that you would like to see me cover in future episodes of this series, please email your suggestions to reviews@ukgamingnetwork.com. I've already received a couple of suggestions from the community, and I will try and get to them as soon as possible. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe, and if you've missed any previous episodes in this series, there should be a playlist up for them on screen right about now. Don't forget that if you want to see the next episode earlier than anyone else, you can also check out our VIP memberships. Next week, I'll have a special Best 10 episode for Valentine's Day, and the re-review will be back as normal in 2 weeks' time. Until then, happy retro gaming. Bye for now.